I'm Levi, and today I'm going to talk with you about the thing which I think is the missing link in Drupal. We just had a keynote from Jem where he touched base with us upon all the new stuff we have in Drupal 8. He talked with us about how we can improve Drupal 8 and how we can improve Drupal in general. And I think this presentation will be actually quite a very good addition to the keynote of him. This presentation will be more related to the technical part, so we will have a very close look on my idea. I've also created a proof of concept, and that's something I would like to share with you today. So yeah, like I just said, I'm Levi, or you can find me within the Drupal community as LEGOVAER. That's not LEGOVER, but just LEGOVAER. And I've been... Oh. Okay, no worries. And 5 years ago, I started with contributing to my first Drupal module, which was the user dashboard module. Today, unfortunately, in Drupal 8, it's no longer existing. They have abandoned my, the module. But in Drupal 7, it's still existing, and we're still using it. Now then, later on, I started working with the Drupal Symphony Inject module. This is actually quite an interesting module. So as you know, in Drupal 8, we have a lot of components coming from Symphony 2. And I was working on a project where I identified that I was also in the need of Symphony, the dependency injection component of Symphony. And that's why we created the Drupal Symphony Inject module. So that module is actually going to introduce the dependency injection in Drupal 7 and 6. Then the next step was the Validators Module. So also within Drupal 8, we are using Symfony's Validators component. And also for another project in Drupal 7 and 6, I needed this component as well because I wasn't planning to reinvent the wheel. So there, we discovered the Validators module, and this module is also today, we also have a very stable version for Drupal 8 as well. And then the next thing which I'm contributing to is, and I'm spending nowadays more time on Drupal CI than on, in general, module contributing, because I'm very interested in all the aspects about testing and automated testing. So, while working for about 6 years now with Drupal during my free time and during my professional time during the day, more and more I've been introduced to test-driven development, behavior-driven development, automation, and that's the reason why I decided to look deeper into Drupal CI. Then the last thing I've done, and this was actually this year. So this year we came up with the Drupal 8 version of the Scheduler module. I've been working together with the team behind Scheduler since January last year on this port to Drupal 8, and it finally got live, I think, several months ago. And while we were working on the Scheduler module, we were thinking about our simple test cases. Has anyone ever written a simple test unit testing or just a regular simple test case? All right, some hands. That's already good. Now, for those people who actually know how much code they actually cover with their simple tests. Okay, that's no hands. So that's exactly the point where I'm going to. So as you can see, while we were working on the Drupal 8 port of the Scheduler module, we noticed that we were actually writing simple tests in order to make a stable version. But what we realized is that the fact that we had a lot of simple test cases, and everyone was really happy because we are testing our module and nothing can go wrong. But then, we had to perform a test coverage analysis for our Drupal 7 version. And then we noticed that, in fact, a lot of code was actually not covered by our simple tests. So that's when we decided to, create some code coverage tool. We were brainstorming as well. So as you can see, this is the initial issue on Drupal.org within the Drupal CI project. So we have been discussing about how should we tackle this, how are we going to automate this, because generating a code coverage for one of your custom module is really tricky if you're going to do it manually, and it will take a lot of time. So we are thinking together with the community about how we are going to automate this process. So this is me, and I was thinking about these two particular issues. So first of all, my objective was I need a solution where I can create automatically coverage reports for any Drupal 7 module. I also need to find a solution where we have to make sure that Drupal.org, our testbot which we have today, obviously it's not for free, so I needed a solution where we are not going to increase the load on the Drupal.org testbot. Also, it needs to be very visible for contributors, because they don't want to spend a lot of time in looking into logs and all of these kind of things. So with this idea, I started thinking about all the components I would like to use. So today we are going to see in general what code coverage is. I'm going to explain you about all the components and tools I've used. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a small demonstration of the proof of concept which we have today. And then I'm going to look forward with you to the roadmap and the future stuff we are going to add, maybe. Now, first of all, code coverage. It's quite easy to analyze your code and generate a code coverage report. As soon as you enable Xdebug within your PHP installation, you will have access to the Xdebug start code coverage function. And as you can see here in this small example, so first of all, what I do is I execute the start coverage function, then I execute some PHP code, and then in the end, I execute the Xdebug get code coverage function. And the result is an array containing, as you can see, the file name which I've used, and then an array with all the line numbers, and then an integer. And the value of that integer can be either 1, which means the line has been executed. So as we see in this array, line 5, for example, has been executed. If we have -1, means that the line has not been executed, and a -2 is that there was just not executable code, so which means that, for example, it was a comment. Now, in order to generate, because this looks all fancy, the Xdebug stuff, but who wants to do that on every PHP script they have? Therefore, Sebastian came up with PHPCof. Sebastian is the person also who is behind PHPUnit, which we have adopted now in Drupal 8 as well. And PHPCof is a library which you can install just using Composer. And PHPCof will allow you to generate a coverage report for a single PHP script you execute. For example, you can execute PHPCof like PHPCof, and then you just fill in the PHP file you would like to execute, and then PHPCof will generate, execute the PHP file, and then will come up with a nice coverage report. As you can see here, so this is the output of PHPCof, but now for Drupal, it was completely different. Oh yeah, so this is also an example of, and I'm not quite sure whether it's very good visible, but the section at the bottom is all red, which means it's not covered. The section above is green, and that means, these lines have been covered. And then the yellow lines are lines which have not been executed yet. So that was already a very good beginning, because I had a tool which was able to analyze my PHP code. But the only downside of this tool was the fact that I was only able to execute one PHP script. And as you know, if you have a look at the run test command shell script, which we use in Drupal 7 and Drupal 8, you see that we execute a lot of stuff. And therefore, I was not able to generate a proper report of the entire, of all the files Drupal was executing. So therefore, I came up with a new tool. So I created a fork of the existing PHPCof tool, and I called it PHPCof Runner. It's just not only a new fancy name, no. The thing I've done is, so we have PHPCof, and for every single line we are going to analyze, what I'm doing is I grab that array, which you have seen before. I grab that array and I put it into an Sqlite database. So we are merging all of the analysis results into one big database. And that's actually what PHPCof Runner does. Then the next tool I've been looking into, because anyone who does not know Travis, Okay, perfect. So the next tool I've been looking into was Travis, and that was an obvious choice. Why Travis? Because first of all, yeah, my first requirement was the fact that my tool was not able to run on the Drupal.org infrastructure because of the price. So therefore I was looking into a free solution, and Travis allows you to build for free as long as you're working on yeah, an open source project. So Travis was allowing us to reduce the cost. Then it's also adopted by a lot of different other big projects. So for example, Twitter, Ruby on Rails, Facebook, even Mozilla, they are all using Travis. And I think we can say that Drupal is also quite big, so why wouldn't we use this as well? Now the other thing which was very interesting with Travis is that Travis is offering an API. So I'm able to access Travis just using plain, oh sorry, no, not, that's the next one, but another advantage is that Travis is allowed, well, you can actually start your build by just adding one simple .yaml file to your build. So all of your setup settings, which will be used by Travis, is just existing in one .yaml file. So you execute all of your commands, your settings, which PHP version to use, that's all going into one single file. And because of that file, Travis will start reading your file, and then, yeah, we'll just do all of the magic. Now then, the next thing, another interesting fact about Travis was the fact that it had API. So I'm able to connect to Travis via REST API, and then I can start my builds. I can retrieve the information from my builds, so that's very useful as well. So therefore, Travis was for me a very logic choice. Now there was a different thing, because we've already decided that, well, I've already decided that Travis was going to be my preferred tool. Now I needed to integrate it with Drupal as well. And fortunately, there is already yeah, a module today that is actually allowing you to integrate your modules with Travis. So it's definitely worth checking it up. It's called Drupal Ti. So Drupal Ti allows you to add a .travis.yaml file to your module. You can then upload your module to Travis or to GitHub, and then you can initiate a build. And the advantage of Drupal Ti is that so normally what you should do when you're going to create a coverage report, or you're going to execute some tests on from your module, you will need to install Drupal yourself, you will need to enable your modules, all these kind of things. And this is where Drupal Ti comes into the picture. So the biggest advantages of Drupal Ti is the fact that you can just install Drupal Ti by executing, well, or by adding one single command to your .travis.yaml file. So you just say Drupal Ti install, and everything happens. So Drupal Ti is going to download all of your dependencies. It's going to create a database. It's going to create install Drupal. So everything is covered by Drupal Ti. So, and it's integrating, yeah, obviously with Travis. And then another big advantage was that, first of all, it's compatible with Drupal 7 and Drupal 8. And it's executing both Simpletest and PHPUnit test cases. So for me, this was perfect, because I was looking for a solution where I was able to use Travis, Drupal, and where I was able to execute Simpletests and PHPUnit tests. So now GitHub. This is another tool I'd like to use. So before I continue, maybe it's worth to share with you how GitHub works actually. Yeah, to be honest, at this point in time we don't care how GitHub works, so I'm not going to mention GitHub anymore, because what I've used is raw Git. So just imagine that instead of using GitHub, I commit my code, I send it to GitHub, and then all my code is obviously in my repository. But I needed something more static, so I needed an interface where I was able to store HTML files and without having my own dedicated hosting. So therefore, I did some research, and I found out that RawGit is actually dealing very well with this. Obviously, we still need GitHub, but at this point in time, yeah, I don't consider GitHub anymore, and I will be talking only about RawGit. So the advantage of RawGit is the fact that it serves all of your static HTML files, and they use the proper content type headers as well. So if you, for example, upload an entire website containing CSS, JavaScript files, all the lot, and you add it to your Git repository, and then you just execute, well, you just open rawgit, and then you add your repository URL, you will get the entire website as you were having a look at it on a proper web hosting provider. So that's the reason why I decided to start using rawgit. Now, one of the last components, and this actually might be a big surprise for you, but I decided to use Drupal 8. I know everyone should be shocked now because I decided to use Drupal 8. The reason why I wanted to use Drupal 8 is, first of all, I needed something to glue all of these components together. So therefore, yeah, that's the glue. Then I needed also something which had a very good user interface. And obviously, Drupal 8, we just saw a very nice presentation from Jem about all the advantages of Drupal 8. So for me, it didn't take too much time in order to decide to pick Drupal 8. Now, my last advantage was, as you see, I needed an API integration with Travis as well. And, well, it's very handy, but Drupal 8 now has REST API within the core itself. So Drupal 8 was just perfect for me. So in a nutshell, what is Drupal coverage? So what is my project? So Drupal coverage actually publishes your code coverage reports to rawgit via GitHub by executing Drupal Ti commands using Travis. I know it's a lot of information to deal with at this point in time, but here's how it works. So as you can see, with Drupal coverage, the only thing you need to do is just type in your module. You have to specify a branch and then just click on the Analyze button. What happens next is, and I know this looks really familiar to Travis, and I'm sorry, I'm not a good front-end developer and not a good teamer, so if anyone is feeling that, yeah, you can help me, please speak with me after the talk. But I just literally copy-pasted it from Travis. And as you can see, yeah, I'm getting a nice coverage badge as well. So this module, for example, has a coverage of 57.6%. I also have a list of the latest builds, so the list of modules with the latest builds. So at this point in time, there's only one very good example, and that's the registry autoload module, which has a coverage of 93.25. So they almost cover every single line of code. But this is just to give you an overview of, yeah, all the modules that we are currently analyzing. And then this little snippet is a part of the log of Travis CI. I'm not sure whether it's perfectly visible, but as you can see, what we do is we just output that coverage report has been completed, and that coverage report can be found at that specific URL. You can also use the badge because we automatically generate a badge. So you can just add it to your GitHub markup or your project on Drupal.org as well. Then the end result is, so as soon as you click on the link within Drupal coverage, you will be redirected to a page containing all of your coverage reports in one place. So now I would like to show you the proof of concept, and at this point in time I honestly know that there are a lot of problems still, and yeah, as you can see, I just installed Drupal, added some content, so this is just, yeah, I'm still working on this. So first of all, as you can see on the About page, here is how I explain actually how it's working. So first we start we kick off our build here within Drupal. Then Drupal is going to talk via the REST API with Travis. Drupal Ti is going to execute test cases. Then the tool I've used, PHP Runner, will keep an eye on all the code which has been executed. In the end, we are going to, and this is also done by PHP Runner, we are going to generate a result. And then we will commit these static HTML pages, so with all of the coverage reports, we will commit them to GitHub. And then, yeah, the cron from this Drupal front end will actually check now and then whether there is actually an update in the status. Within Drupal, within Travis. So this is the overview of modules, which I today, so I've only been using 3 modules in order to start testing. So as you can see, I have path auto, registry outload, and token. So if I click, for example, on path auto, I see that at this point in time, so I have 2 builds, and one is currently in progress, and that's the one I've kicked off yesterday. And as I just mentioned, so Drupal needs to check quite often with Travis whether the build has already been completed. So if I go to the website again and just use check. So now what just happened is, and I know it's just a hello world, but what just happened is, so Drupal made a connection with Travis, requested the build status of this latest build, and updated inside the database of Drupal itself. So if I reload this page now, you will see that, it's been finished 16 hours ago, and it took about 30 minutes and 17 seconds. Obviously, the results here are exactly the same. I'm really glad that they are the same, because otherwise I would have explained to you and I wouldn't know how. Then the next thing which we can do is actually start another analysis. So let's say we want to see the coverage report of the token module. And then the only thing I need to do is just, like I said, click on the analyze button. Now Drupal is interacting with Travis CI again, and we will see that he's saying, okay, we have initiated the build within Travis. So if I go to my Travis then again, I will see indeed that a new build has been started. The build takes about 4 minutes in order to complete, but ramping up the build itself on Travis CI can sometimes take a while. But at this point in time, we actually, we don't care about that, because how often are you going to generate a code coverage report? Sometimes it's just easy to, well, you're going not to contribute to a Drupal module and just saying, look, this patch will improve the overall code coverage report with 0.1%. Normally you just do that in one go, and then you're going to create a new analysis. So we have plenty of time for that. Now, if we are going to look deep further into what's actually going on in this build, so first of all, what we do is we are going to. Is this actually readable until? Can everyone read whatever is here? Okay, no one's complaining, so I think so. So the first thing we are going to do is clone. The initial repository. So like I said, I've got on GitHub, and it's free, so you can have a look as if you want. So it's not a private repository, it's a public repository, so you can just have a look. And that repository contains only one .travis.yaml file. And within that YAML file, I have a lot of, as you see, a lot of environment variables which I define. And what then actually happens is, within Drupal 8, I'm just injecting new environment variables into this build. So I'm using all of the existing variables, but on top of that, I just add new variables, saying, for example, in our case now, instead of analyzing, which I've defined here as a standard, the scheduler module, we are going to use the token module. And also, we are going to execute a token Simpletest group. As you see here, we can also specify the environment. Currently, I'm analyzing for Drupal 7, but Drupal 8 is possible as well. And then the next step, what happens is that for executing the Xdebug code analyzer, you definitely need to have Xdebug, which is obvious. So therefore, I needed to make sure that Xdebug is installed as well. So here I'm installing PHP once again. So this is the example indeed where I said that I'm injecting the environment variables which are coming from Drupal. So here you can indeed see I'm using path auto, and my destination branch where I can find reports afterwards will be this one. And then we are going to install Drupal Ti. Now, as you can see, probably this is a fork of the existing Drupal Ti project. And the reason is because it's just a proof of concept. So we haven't decided yet whether this is the good approach, whether this is the best approach. So therefore, I'm just using a fork of Drupal Ti. Then the next thing I'm doing is cloning the module from Drupal.org, as you can see here. And as we have defined Drupal Ti module name within our environment variables, now Git will automatically clone the path.auto module. Then, as you can see, we can also say Drupal Ti before install. Drupal Ti will execute a lot of things before it actually starts to build. So here, like I just mentioned, by default, Travis does not enable Xdebug within PHP. So I had to, download the Xdebug add-on for PHP and enable it manually. During the install, and this will look quite familiar to a lot of people here. So here we are installing, first of all, Drush, in order to then install Drupal. So that's probably going on during the before script. So here you can see we are automatically downloading the latest version of Drupal.org. We are enabling a lot of modules, so we are installing it, and that's going on here again. Then we are also, because obviously we need these tools like the PHP Cover Runner, as you can see here, we need this tool to be available as well. So therefore we are executing another update on the composer.json. Here we can see that I'm actually downloading a patch, and this patch is actually necessary because there's a small piece of code which I needed to add to the run test command within the Drupal repository. So I'm just applying this patch, and as you can see, it's only to the run test bash script that I'm applying this patch. So that's the only thing I'm changing. Then obviously the next thing we are going to do is enable the Simpletest module. Because it's quite difficult to generate a Simpletest coverage report without Simpletest. Then we are enabling path.auto, but path.auto requires tokens, so all of this is going automatically. And then the interesting part is where we say actually, and this is actually exactly the same what's going on the testbot within Drupal.org as well. On Drupal.org, we are not using Drupal Ti. We are using a lot of separate code because the environment is completely different. But actually, in theory, the same happens. So we are also executing all of the test cases. So as soon as you submit a patch to a contributed module, then you will see indeed sometimes that your patch will fail or your patch will succeed, and that's based upon the output of this command. So as you can see here, I am executing PHP Cover Runner. So this is an alternative to the original PHP Cov. And here we are executing all of the path.auto test cases, which are developed in Simpletest. So everything is passing, which is really good. The guys did a great job there. And if we scroll to the bottom almost, so as you can see, they have a lot of tests actually. And here is where the interesting part happens. So you see that I'm executing PHP Cover Runner for a second time. So the first time I'm executing actually a PHP script, and I tell PHP Cover Runner, look, I'm going to execute a lot of PHP code. Can you please store all of this data within the Sqlite database? And as soon as I'm done with all of my executions, then the only thing I need to do is just make PHP Cov aware that we have finished our analysis and that PHP Cov can now actually start processing all of the data and generate a beautiful report for us. So that's what's going on here. So as you can see, first of all, we are generating the coverage report in HTML. So I'm still using my existing coverage report. I'm still using exactly the same repository which I was using before on GitHub. And here is a list of currently all the branches we have available. So as you can see, for every build I'm creating a new branch, and the URL will be report / then the module name / and then the Travis CI build number. And now I'm adding a lot of code. So all of the HTML, the static HTML files are getting added to that specific branch. So that's what's happening here. You will notice, some some warnings, but yeah, today we can just ignore them. It's just working. So as you can see here, this is the list of all the files which have been generated. So the first thing you will notice is that there is also a batch.svg file. So that's a custom script I've written in PHP, and it's part of the Drupal Ti fork. And the only thing it's going to do is just have a look at the index.html file, because the index.html file displays as the overall score for this particular module. And based upon that information, I just generate a batch, so it's not rocket science. Then the next thing you see is the coverage.sqlite database. So this is actually done by the fork of PHPCov. So like I said, we are storing all of this data within the Sqlite database. In the future, I'm quite sure that we will remove it, but now it's just for debugging purposes that we add it to the repository as well. And then all of the other stuff you see here is some CSS files, JavaScript files, and then all of the reports of this module in particular. Then you will see that I commit all of these files towards my repository, and then in the end you will see that he's displaying a message saying, yeah, look, it's completed, everything went well, you can actually have a look here. Now, if I go to the repository itself, on GitHub, you will see that there is a lot of branches in the first place. Oh, and our the build we just kicked off has, in the meantime, has already finished. But here you will see that there are a lot of branches. I'm never using these branches, so this is a repository and I will never commit a single line to this repository manually. So everything in this repository is done automatically. So if I just want to have the latest results on, for example, which one was it, token, then I will see the contents of my repository. And then the only thing I needed to do was display actually the index.html file, because this is not actually useful if we see it like this. So I just open raw git and paste my URL here. And then he's saying, okay, you can use this URL. If I open this one, then you will see this is the analysis of the token module. So here we have a good indication about the lines which have been covered and the amount of lines which have been covered. And as you can see, currently the token module has a coverage of less than 50%. I'm not blaming anyone, but this is just a tool for us to understand what are we exactly testing today, how can we improve the overall quality of our contributed modules. Well, then even a better thing is that the token.pages include file has a zero coverage on Simpletest test cases. So again, we are not blaming anyone. We're just trying to help the community with improving the overall coverage reports, because we need to test our code just to make sure that we decrease the amount of bugs which we will have in the future. Now, if we want to go into more detail, we can just click on the file itself. And there you have an overview of actually all the functions within that token.module file. And as you can see, for some of the functions, we are testing a lot. So, for example, this module, this function, we are actually testing the entire function. Sorry, that's this one. And then for the menu, for example, and here's a good explanation for. So we see that PHP has executed this single line, so number 85. And obviously, during our build, we did not have the Devil module enabled. So that's the reason why all of the other elements are here in red. So what can we do in order to improve this? For example, we can just say to our test case, all right, now we also need to enable the Devil module in order to make sure that we test these items as well. So that's just an example. And that's just something which is useful and visible now for everyone within the community. So as soon as you execute this, you know that, all right, maybe we should take this action in order to make sure that we have this covered as well. So yeah, that's in general how this one works. Now, in the meantime, our build here has been finished as well for token, and yeah, we just had a look. So normally if I go back to the list of modules and I have a look at the token, so yeah, as you can see, it's still building. If I execute check, then he will tell me that the coverage report has been completed. And as you can see, indeed, exactly the same coverage report. And in order to access, because you don't want to go to Git Hub and raw Git yourself, so I'm just going to close these. And in order to access the last analysis, you just click on yeah, this one, and he will immediately forward you to the URL actually on raw Git, and you can see immediately all of the results. So this is actually quite useful. Then the last thing I would like to share with you is, let me quickly go back to my slides. The roadmap. So as you can see, I've been working quite a long time on this now, but there are still a lot of things I need to, or we can improve. So first of all, it would be very useful to have patch support because, for example, if, let's say if you have a module which has only a coverage percent of, let's say, 10%, you want to increase it, but you don't want to commit every time to your branch just to make sure that you can see the results. So therefore, it would be nice to have patch support as well. I'm going to create a distribution of this project as well because it's not something which I'm going to make money with or so. I want to share this with the community. There's already a distribution page for the project itself, but I'm just finalizing all of the content, just make sure that it's usable by anyone who is interested to contribute. I'm going to deploy Drupal coverage as well. So I'm going to actually get some hosting and enable this distribution on a website so that actually anyone in the community can start using it and that anyone can start adding their modules so that we can get a better understanding about what's the overall status of the contributed modules. Also, and this might be a tricky one, so it would be also nice to have custom module support as well. I'm quite sure that everyone here in the room who has ever been working professional with Drupal, sometimes you just get faced with your, the fact that you need to write a custom module. And I think it would be very useful that you can actually perform this kind of analysis as well. So therefore, that's also on the roadmap. And then the most important thing for me is to have a clear understanding about what's the status today with the coverage report on Drupal core. So as you can see, during one of my first slides, there is actually today an open issue where we need to identify what the coverage report is today on Drupal core. If we want to make Drupal better, we definitely have to go for this, and I'm working very hard in order to have Drupal core in scope as well. So I think if there's a priority list, Drupal core coverage is for me the highest priority. Then also, but that's more like a cool thing to have, is I don't know whether you've ever seen coveralls.io, but it's actually a tool which gives you a very nice result on your coverage reports. Facebook uses it as well, so even if you have never worked with coverage reports, it's actually sometimes interesting to have a look at coveralls.io because the open source projects of Facebook are available there as well, so you can see a lot of interesting code. And the last suggestion, and again, now we are still in the phase of having a proof of concept, but ideally we would have some kind of integration with Drupal.org so that everyone who is contributing to a module can actually see the overall status of the module. So that's what we're still planning to do. And at this point in time, all the work you've seen today is something which I've done all myself in my free time. I had lots of discussions with other people within the community, but it's just me, and I'm going towards something, and I have no idea at this point in time whether it's the best solution, whether I should continue with this, whether maybe I should just start from scratch and do it completely different. Therefore, for me, it's really important that I get your feedback. So as soon as you have any questions after this presentation, just feel free to ask them to me, or later on the day, just please come to me and tell me what you think about it, what I can improve about it. Also, development support, that's something very, it can be very handy, as it is a Drupal 8 project, and if you've never worked with Drupal 8 before, it might be very interesting that you start contributing with me on this one, because it's a very basic Drupal 8 website. So the only fancy thing we are doing is the REST API with Travis. So feel free to also speak to me about how you can contribute. The project is already live on Drupal.org. If you just go to the distribution list, you will see that Drupal coverage is there. And then also, last but maybe not least, during DrupalCon this year, I think within 1 or 2 weeks, I've also organized a BOF at one of the rooms over there, just to have an interaction with other people within the community, because this is my idea, but I don't know whether it's actually, like I said, a good idea. So therefore, I've introduced this BOF session, and feel free to join with me. It would be even nice if we could just sit there and just represent the Belgian Drupal community. So as soon as you have any feedback, just feel free to reach out to me. Now I know that it's only, oh well, I didn't do that bad actually. So yeah, if you have any questions at this point in time, feel free to ask. Yeah.
You showed a visualization of the coverage for a second.
Yeah. So the question is whether I would like to show the visualization of the coverage report.
You already showed it earlier. Yes.
No, sorry, not this one.
So here it says that the tests folder is only covered for 46%. But how do you cover tests? I mean, you have tests that cover your code. So is this because the debug command doesn't realize that it's handling tests, or?
Yeah, okay, so the question is, if you go to the coverage reports, you see a test folder which has only been covered for 46.67%. Why is that? Now the answer is quite easy. So this is based all on the PHPUnit framework, and maybe you're aware, but with PHPUnit you can identify a .phpunit.dist.xml file where you identify which files should be ignored by default. And this is something I've been struggling with for quite a long time, because if you have a look at the coverage report, even for the PHPUnit module, you will see that also the token module is in the same coverage reports results, which is actually not fair, because if then PHPUnit is using token and token has a coverage report of 0, that will definitely have an impact on the coverage report of PHPUnit. So the thing is, I need to exclude the test folder. So yeah, that's still on the to-do list. And then actually, why aren't, is a lot of code not used here? As you can see, it's only one function which has not been executed. To be honest, I really don't know. I don't even know what these kind of functions do. I can analyze it, but at this point in time, I really don't know. The only thing I can just say is that we should exclude the test folder and all other modules, and make sure that only the files which are related to the module we are currently analyzing is in scope, so that we add all of these files to the ignore folder. Any other questions? All right, then I would like to thank you for your time, and once again, feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to help.